Good morning, Whatculture viewers. James here with another video, and I am being forced this morning to go and see The Flash. So figured it's only fair that you all have to suffer with me. We're about to go and pick up Mr. Dan Durkin from the Whatculture office, and let's go. Right, I've picked up Dan Durkin here from the Whatculture office, and we are just about to head off to the cinema. And Dan, what are your pre-Flash thoughts?
Well, I'm not looking forward to it.
It's gonna be hard, isn't it?
I don't know, just DC's not really up there for me, you know what I mean? And I haven't been excited with the trailers. The CGI looks bad.
Really bad.
I'm not trying to be here, yeah, but we'll see. Hopefully they prove us wrong, and hopefully it's decent.
Yeah, well, we'll catch you in the studio in like 3 hours.
Aye.
Three hours later.
Well, that was a experience. Right, we've just come out. That was pretty wild, to be honest.
Enjoy it?
Yes.
We're eating my words.
It was actually, it was the worst film I've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, brilliant.
Enjoyable. It
Yeah.
was enjoyable, like, more than anything. But we need to go back and talk about it more in depth. Like, I've got a lot to say.
Yeah. Right, back to the studio. Hello, right, we are back in the studio, and we've just gotten out of The Flash, and that is probably one of the craziest films I have ever seen in the history of my life. I don't even know where to start.
Well, I think we should start at the beginning. So, this film opens up on this sequence that is just completely bonkers, yeah?
Yeah.
You've got Barry, who's, I think Alfred calls him at the start.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, Bruce needs help. Superman's busy, Wonder Woman's busy. And it's up to good old Barry to save the day. I think it was it Gotham City Hospital is about to blow up or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's a ward of babies. Yeah.
It's, honestly, we were sat in the cinema, and as soon as, well, this is going to be filled with spoilers, which I've already said at the beginning.
Yeah.
But as soon as all of these babies started falling out of the window, me and you sort of looked at each other, and we just thought, like, what the
In disbelief.
Yeah.
In disbelief. So it transitions into this like weird Speed Force thing where Flash is like running up the building, and his task is to catch all these falling babies and a dog and a lady.
There's a bit where he puts the baby in a microwave and then shuts the door, and then when the whole thing's like sort of over, the microwave pings. Unfortunately, the baby's not dead.
Yeah,
it doesn't really make a difference.
He saves them all.
They're all CGI.
This is what they open it up on, so you know, like from this point forward, this film is going to be absolutely bonkers, and it is, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is.
What was your like overall thoughts of it? Like, did you enjoy it overall?
I mean, I did. Yeah, it was. We both said, didn't we? We both went into it thinking this is going to be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And I've kind of left thinking, yeah, it was terrible, but at the same time, it was also absolutely brilliant. And I really wasn't expecting it. Like, I'm still speechless. Like, it's very rare that I come out of a cinema screen and I have no words, and I quite literally have. Well, I do have words, but like, I can't get over everything that we've seen in that.
I completely agree there. Like, it was a terrible film, like, by every stretch of the imagination. Like, the story wasn't great, the CG was terrible, there was a bunch of cameos, which we'll get to, but somehow it was fun.
Do you know what the worst part of the film was?
Go on.
Was the bloke who works in the coffee shop at the beginning.
The man who takes 10 years to make a sandwich.
Yeah, when Barry Allen, the Flash, is asking for a PB sandwich, it's the guy's probably the most annoying person I've ever seen.
Which is funny because the Flash also starts off very annoying. Like, it's this whole like twitchy's going so fast because everything's moving 100 miles an hour, and by the end I think he kind of slows down a bit and they tone it down. But yeah, him being the most annoying part of the film was a surprise.
Yeah, well, it's weird because he was, like, Barry Allen was really annoying to begin with. And then when he meets the old Barry Allen, which you will have already seen in the trailers, like he goes back in time and there's another version of Barry Allen. When he meets the old one, suddenly the original is no longer particularly annoying because the old one is now the annoying one.
So I think the best part of this film, for me, was Batman. Michael Keaton is back as Batman. That was a big selling point of the whole thing.
Yep.
And he stole the show here. Like, do you agree with that?
He did, 100%. Every single bit with Batman in was amazing. It was the best way that I can explain the Batman. There was a specific Batman fight scene. And the best way I can explain it is, if anybody who's seen it, do you remember when Rogue One came out and we finally got to see Darth Vader absolutely whipping everybody with his lightsaber? It kind of was a little bit like that, even though we did see Batman back in the day absolutely
yeah, it's a little bit jarring seeing this version of Batman in like a modern action sequence. Like, so yeah, let's just run it down. Basically, Barry Allen goes back in time to save his mother. This is the Flashpoint story from the comics. Yeah. I thought that was a little bit weird, them doing that as the first Flash film, but it is what it is. And by doing this, I think he replaces the tin of tomatoes or something. Like, so his mom then doesn't get killed, however that works. But yeah, so he goes back in time and he ends up changing the future. But they did an interesting thing with the multiverse, because it's like, it's not two separate like branches, like the way
it doesn't branch off like we know how it does in MCU. It sort of does like a crossover thing. So if you change the future, you also change the past. Yeah. So you change everything even before you went back as well. Hence why we now have Michael Keaton back as Batman rather than Ben Affleck.
That was that. It was different, wasn't it? It was different. Like, do you enjoy this whole trend at the minute, which is the whole multiverse thing? Because I personally think it's a little bit played out. Like, apart from Spider-Verse, which was incredible.
Yeah, it seems to be becoming like a theme in every single superhero movie at the minute, and I don't know, like I feel as though it needs changing up a little bit. Like, I think that's like, if you talk about the MCU, that's probably going to be the way it keeps going, like as far ahead as even like the Kang Dynasty. Yeah.
They did some interesting things with the fact that when he goes back, it's still changed as well, so he's not in his original timeline, because there's this whole like thing surrounding this film because of DC's new leadership with James Gunn. Like, people are like, is this part of the new canon, the new DCU as it were, or is it completely just going to be wiped out, like the whole Zack Snyderverse thing? And they kind of explained a little bit here and there. Like, do you think this Flash film is going to like be important to the wider DCU going forward?
Well, I think it has to be, really. It's just because of the bearing that all of this is going to have on the entire future of the DCU. It's I don't see how they would be able to actually undo anything that they've done in this film.
Because they do introduce the whole aspect of the multiverse. Like, you see that sequence when he's going back, all these different worlds. Like, we'll get to the cameos, but like, it's all like smashing together, and it's like, well, is this their way of rebooting it?
Yeah, I mean, like we one of our immediate thoughts when we came out, like, we don't really want to touch on the whole Ezra Miller thing, because everybody knows he's a criminal. But if they were going to replace him for future films, they've kind of introduced a way for them to now probably do that. Yeah. Now that the multiverse is a thing in the DCU.
they can do that.
They probably could replace him now,
Yeah.
with a different version of Barry Allen, I guess.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But going back to the story, I know we're a bit all over the place, but to be fair, the film was itself So he loses his powers as well. Did you expect that to happen?
No, because the trailer, by the way, gives away so much of the film. It almost ruins it in aspects. There's certain characters introduced in the trailer which would have been a whole lot better if they'd have just kept that for the movie.
Yeah. You can get why they did that though. This is a selling point. They've basically sold it as a Batman movie rather than a Flash movie.
To be honest, it wasn't so much that. It was the Kara, the Supergirl.
Yeah.
It was, if they'd have left that for the movie, I think that would have been more of a super shock.
Because they kind of make it out as if they're going to rescue Superman from this Soviet bunker thing, and it's it's Kal-El, we're going to rescue Clark. But it's not Clark, it's Kara. And I think that would have been so much of a better reveal if it hadn't have been spotted in the trailers.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but like you were saying, he loses his powers at the beginning, and I wasn't expecting it because it doesn't really show that in the trailer.
That sequence as well, when the old version of Barry gets his powers for the first time, and then he just speeds off into the city.
Yeah.
There's just
ends up
chaos.
butt naked.
Yeah, it's just so. There's a truck that goes to hit him, which then spins around, hits another car, which then sets on fire, which then sets off a bunch of fireworks, and it's an overload of everything. Yeah. And I think that perfectly sums up this film. Yeah. It's just mad.
I mean, straight after the original Barry Allen loses his powers, there's a bit where he's realising he's lost his powers and he goes to do the speed run and it's so, honestly, it's probably the funniest bit of the film for me. He does, when he's doing the speed thing as the Flash, it always looks ridiculous. It's a proper drawn out sort of floppy run.
You can't really do that without looking stupid though.
No,
the fact, because they did it in the CW show as well. He looks silly when he's running. It's a silly concept.
Yeah, but he tries to do the run, but obviously he doesn't have his powers. So he still does this floppy run around in a circle, and it is so funny.
I've got a feeling people are going to hate this because the tone's all over the place.
Yeah, the tone's all over the place. The CGI looks totally unfinished. I mean, we bumped into an old friend. As soon as we came out of the film, and one of the things that he says, if he said he was going to watch this. So hello, Simon. He made a good point and said that he wondered if they'd released the unfinished version. That's how bad some of the CGI looks.
Yeah, especially when they're in the Speed Force, and it's a weird thing. So he goes into this bubble thing, and then the events are unfolding around him.
Yeah,
and all of the characters look like CGI renders.
Yeah,
not particularly good ones as well.
Yeah, they haven't used real life people for all of the characters in the bubble bit. They've just CGI'd everybody, and it looks awful.
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good.
And it looks worse than the Superman mustache thing. It's like the Superman mustache thing, but for everybody.
Yeah. And segueing off that, that's how we get our look at these multiversal characters. We've got the black and white Superman. I don't know the name of the person who played him.
Yeah. They've got one of the original Superman.
Adam West.
Yeah,
I saw that. You've got Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that was everybody in the because I personally hadn't seen this on Twitter. You had, so you knew it was coming. But as soon as the long-haired Superman started flying about, it didn't click for me that that was Nicolas Cage, and then it was Nicolas Cage.
I like how they worked that in. It's nice to see that. But the big one was Christopher Reeve. Reeve back as some sort of CGI thing, and personally I hated that. I think it was just in bad taste. I don't know. The estate must have signed off on it.
Yeah.
But
I'm hoping they didn't sign off on that version of it though, because it didn't look good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that was a bit weird. Was there any other cameos?
Yeah. Obviously there was. Right at the end, you've got George Clooney coming back.
So after he's altered everything and then fixed it, he goes back to his timeline.
Thinks it's his timeline.
Yeah, but he actually alters the placement of the cans. So in the security footage, Bruce Wayne uses his dad doesn't look up or something. That was the whole thing. So it's his arraignment, and he's trying to get out of prison and all this. It's so convoluted. When you're saying it like this, it's so convoluted. And
the story's all over.
Yeah, he ends up putting the thing on the top shelf, so when the dad goes to grab it, he looks up, and then that gets him off. But this is a different timeline.
Yeah.
And George Clooney just rocks up at the end as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, you almost knew it was going to be George Clooney. Like, you knew it was coming.
Because he's on the phone to him, isn't he?
Yeah, and then he walks through like a crowd of people, and it's like, obviously, it's George Clooney.
You get Wonder Woman there at the start as well. She saves him on the bridge. But yeah, that whole sequence, it's the lasso of truth. This has been done before in like Joss Whedon's Justice League, and it's just cringe at this point.
Yeah, there was that stupid joke that the Flash made about being a virgin, basically, and it wasn't
God.
Great. Yeah, it was very cringe.
The film was bad, but it had enjoyable elements, and like
it was one of those films where you know it's bad, but if you can sort of remove yourself from that situation, it becomes enjoyable. Like if you know it's bad,
you can laugh at it.
Yeah, if you go into it knowing it's bad, and then just everything else is a plus after that, that's kind of the way you get to with it.
And there are certain like aspects of it that were enjoyable. Like I thought it was cool seeing the whole like Zod attack thing from a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think the Zod. I thought it was poor. I don't think even all of the time travel bit was bad. Some of it was all right, but I think like the final action scene with the two Flash, Michael Keaton's Batman and Supergirl, I thought them all fighting Zod.
Yeah, and
I thought it was just really
all the Kryptonians. I guess to have like a big superpowered enemy for Flash to go against, because like if not, the enemy would just be beaten straight away. You know what I mean?
And I think that right there is like one of the big problems with the DC movies, is that they don't have none of them particularly have a great villain.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of them do. I mean, if you look back to the Justice League and
it's just a shame we never got to see Darkseid. But I mean, that's a whole different thing. But like, one of the good parts of the multiversal aspect was that these points that cross are always going to be there. So these points in time, I think the way they demonstrate it in this fight was with Michael Keaton's Batman ends up dying like a few different ways, and Kara ends up dying as well. And it's like
they keep going back in the middle of the fight to try and save them, and they come to a realization that must just be a stopping point, and that version of the Batman will always die. Yeah,
and it turns out that version of the Flash is also like this like Black Flash-esque character. I don't know if that's who he's supposed to be, because he's all like spiky and stuff like that.
So the whole way that the whole way that the original Flash ends up in a different timeline is because he gets pushed out of the Speed Force. The Speed Force. Yeah. Into the timeline that has the other Barry Allen in, and long story short, the person who pushes him out of the Speed Force is that Barry Allen who he ends up in the timeline with. So he ends up just fighting himself in the end. Time travel is just so convoluted, it's just so convoluted. I love the little Back to the Future references though. There's a big thing where Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly because he's changed that thing. It's the butterfly effect. Well, it's not even that, is it? Because it's not. But see, time travel is just confusing. It's just confusing. Because obviously, Back to the Future that came out before he goes back. So that proves like the Batman crossover thing, which he uses like a spaghetti, the pasta to demonstrate. And what did you think of the ending as well? Like, we get the post-credit scene. Jason Momoa's back. And he makes this comment about Aquaman being the only constant through all of the universes. So I guess that's their way of saying. But he's technically wrong though, isn't he? Because there is no Aquaman in the version. Well, he was dead, wasn't he? No, he hadn't been born. He hadn't been born. That was it. Yeah, well, there wasn't a version of him, was there? Because I guess Arthur Curry was the dog. Yeah. That's not going to make any sense to anybody watching if you haven't seen the film. Yeah, but I guess the Batman being different people, it's so Aquaman's the same person throughout the whole thing. And that's going to be their way. If they do reboot Aquaman, it's going to be Jason Momoa again. Yeah. And not like Lobo, which is what some of the rumours suggested.
But yeah, going forward, we've got Blue Beetle, I think, is the next DC film.
Yeah, I actually saw the trailer for that for the first time in this screen.
Looks fine.
It looked alright.
And then Superman's a big one after that. But it's, yeah, like I say, it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays into the wider DC universe going forward. If it matters at all or if it doesn't, I don't know.
It was a ride.
Yeah.
I feel as though we've come out of that screen and like with my head blown a little bit.
If you had to rate it out of 10, what would you give it? Putting you on the spot here.
7.5. That's relatively high.
Yeah.
7.2.
7.2.
If we can go like points, yeah,
Okay.
7.2. I'd probably give it 7.2.
I'll give it a 6, personally.
I thought it was better than that. I think
5 being average, 6 being decent.
it's weird because I'm rating it based on how much fun I had, and I had quite a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, it was a bad film, but if you remove yourself from that element, it becomes quite enjoyable. So yeah, I'd say 7.2. I have an over tendency to.
Would you recommend someone who hasn't seen the rest of the DC films to go and watch this?
Well, I'm going to be in this quandary because my partner, she really doesn't want to see it. So I don't know. I may like force her to go and see it. So we'll see.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
I think I probably would recommend it because we had a good time. Yeah. Like a lot of the times throughout the screen, we were looking at each other in disbelief.
Yeah, but shaking our heads, laughing.
Yeah, I think we had a good time still. Yeah.
So the Flash.
So yes, that was the Flash, and that was just a little rundown for what it was like. I mean, please let us know in the comments below once you've seen it. I realise that this is probably going to come out a couple of days before the US audience get to see it, but we sort of enjoyed it-ish.
If that's not a ringing endorsement, I don't know what is.
Sort of enjoyed it-ish.